Get started. Let me share my screen. Excuse me. All right. So we're moving from the preliminary research into the proposal. The proposal is a very important genre. Few of you are likely going to be, once you get out of college, writing a bunch of research papers. You'll be doing a lot of research, but you probably won't be doing formal research papers. However, most of you will likely, to some degree or other, be doing proposals. So this is a very important genre. If you get nothing else out of this class, but experience and expertise with writing proposals, it will be a class well worth your time. Examples of this. So, um, if you are having to get grants or funding, that's all proposals. That's how you get them. But the proposal is an extremely competitive, it's an inherently competitive genre. If you're writing a proposal, it's competing with other proposals every time. And so being able to write a competitive, strong proposal is absolutely a skill. There are people who that is their whole job is grant writing. It's a very lucrative job. Just writing grants, writing proposals day in, day out. So that's the formal side of writing proposals. Informally, just doing pitches, pitching uh, projects and ideas and things like that. If you're doing business plans, whatever, then you're doing proposals. Um, right. So let's dive into this specific assignment. So the proposal has three elements. So you can think of these elements in terms of sections of the essay or as paragraphs, sets of paragraphs. So as you're thinking through what you're going to do with them, just think in terms of paragraphs. So I would do a paragraph discussing that, a paragraph discussing that. Word count is 250 to 500 words, which is a page to 2 pages. So it's a very brief genre. Um, with the first element by far being the most important. And so you really need 2, 3 paragraphs developing this first element. The other ones you can probably do in a paragraph each, but this first element probably take minimum 2 paragraphs to work your way through. Now, whether it takes you two, whether it takes you four, that's up to you and how you write, how you break up your ideas. Um, so, um, this first element. So first you need a brief survey of your community. None of this will be new. This is going to be all things that you've written about already, that you have notes on, that you've made decisions on, that we've talked about. So you're creating everything in this first element you already have. It's just going to be organizing it into paragraphs and sort of fleshing those ideas out. So just a survey of the community. Who is the community? If it's not just self-explanatory, then giving a sense of how they fit into society. Um, what is their role in the larger society, or what is their main function? Is it as community in the geographical sense, like in the way that like a state is a community? Or is it something more abstract than that, where a state is a community of scholars, and so we have this kind of value structure where we value things like knowledge and things like that? Is it, ethnic communities, cultural communities, giving a sense of who that community is? The proposal should be a fairly personal accounting of these things. The proposal is a genre where it is more appropriate than in a research paper to do things like give anecdotal evidence. So personal firsthand experiences are legitimate forms of evidence that you can discuss here that will support the overall goal of your proposal, which is to convince its audience to invest grant money in you, or invest time in you, or invest resources of any kind in you. So, that brief survey of that community: who are they? Why do they matter? Um, about a paragraph here. Um, and then the identification of your chosen problem. So, again, Go back to your notes that you've written on your problem. Don't overthink this. If your problem is, AI and its impact on a specific community of artists, right? You don't have to do a lot of overthinking, over flourishing on the impact of artists on the world, right? Like just right from the gut. You don't have to be over formalizing your ideas. Whatever you feel is legitimate. And so just find a way to put that into formal language. But the feeling itself doesn't need to be formal. You're just exploring your thoughts and um, your feelings on the matter, right? Um, and then you identify your problem. What I would do, discuss community first, and then bring up the problem at the end of that. Now, here's the community. Here's why who they are. Here's why they matter. And here's a problem affecting them. New paragraph. This problem is out of hand. Blah blah blah. Um, so I would say that's a good way to break it up. Paragraph one, community, then introduce problem at the end of that paragraph. Open up second paragraph with the full exploration of the problem. Um, I should get a sense, your audience should get a sense of why you have chosen this problem in your discussion of it. Some ways to do that. A survey of how the problem is affecting the community, right? So you introduce who the community is and that there's a problem affecting it. Second paragraph, how? Exactly how AI is putting artists out of work, or right now it's making them have to deal with copyright stuff, right? Where their intellectual property is being um, plagiarized and stuff like that, and that's bad for their artistic process. Um, right? Just explore how it is affecting them. Common sense will do here, right? You don't have to, no sources. This is very important. No, so we've done preliminary research, but I don't want to see citation. I don't want to see, um, if you have off the top of your head, like one good statistic that really highlights the impact, that's great. That's fine. One source, two sources maximum, that's fine. But I don't want to see like a works cited page with a laundry list of sources, um, one or two statistics, one like a single quote is more than enough. So I don't want to see a lot of research for this. I don't want to this should be coming from a more personal place, a more firsthand perspective. Um, but if you are going to want to integrate a source, this is probably where to do it to highlight how that problem is impacting that community, what is at stake. So it's also appropriate in this genre to speculate a little bit. We generally don't want to speculate. Speculating means um, putting two and two together to make four, even though there's no evidence for four, right? Where we can say we have evidence for this two, we have evidence for this two, and it makes sense to my mind, my analytical mind, that this two and this two will make four, but we don't have any evidence that's actually going to happen. Right, that's speculation. We generally want to avoid speculation. We really want to deal only in facts and very formal logic. Um, but sometimes we have to speculate. Sometimes it's appropriate to sort of go out on a limb and say, in my professional opinion, given this context, given this um, evidence that we do have, it makes sense that this will lead to this, eh, according to, and then you want to flesh out what your reasoning is or whatever. But in research papers, we don't speculate. In a proposal, we do, because our speculation is what has led us to think we need to do something about this problem. I speculate that if this problem isn't solved, it's going to become a much bigger problem, right? We don't have evidence that's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure it will. And that's why I'm proposing this, because we need to do something about it. And so here's a place to speculate. Just what do you think is going to happen? What is at stake as a result of this problem? Um, but be careful, right? Just because it's appropriate to speculate doesn't mean we can speculate wildly, right? We want to be grounded. Um, but also we need to sell the idea, right? We need to make sure that the idea is impactful. So navigating that fine line between grounded speculation, but also persuasive writing, but that isn't sophistry, meaning persuasive simply for effect, right? Where we're over exaggerating and stuff for effect. We don't want to do that. It's a hard line to walk. And then why the problem matters and or why it should be addressed now. Now, here is the most important part. I'm going to bold it, highlight it, italicize it. The proposal is an inherently competitive genre. You're competing with other proposals, other ideas. Your idea might be better. The problem that you're looking at might be better, a bigger problem. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the problem to back right now. Compare, um, California supposedly is going to at some point drift off into the sea as a result of tectonic activity and rising sea levels and stuff, right? We know in some super future that's probably going to happen. California is going to be kind of a little island. Compare that to rising grocery costs, right? California drifting off into the sea is a pretty significant point. That's probably a bigger deal than, eggs going up a penny today, right? But eggs going up a penny today is a far more pressing concern than California drifting off to the sea in 1,000 years, right? And so this is the crux of what is going to be persuasive about your proposal. It's not that your idea is good, it's that your idea is good and it needs to be dealt with immediately. It's the immediacy of the problem that is going to drive the nail home, not the, grandiose nature of what you're doing. And so in your discussion, when you discuss why it matters, it should be in that kairos meaning timely, and that kairotic tenor, right? That we need to deal with this immediately, and here's why. It's that immediacy that will ultimately persuade your audience to get on board with you, right? If you're saying this is the last stop, get in or be left behind, they're a lot more likely to want to, get on the wagon. So, um, yeah, I want to see that kairos. I want to see that timeliness. I want to see that discussion of here's everything going on, and it needs to be dealt with immediately. And I want to see you be able to sell that kairos, sell that timeliness, sell that immediacy. So paragraph on community, paragraph on the problem, possibly two paragraphs on the problem, right? You could do your second paragraph on just the problem in general. Here's what the problem is. Here's how it's generally affecting things. Here's, my community's stake in that problem. And then a whole paragraph kind of speculating in a way that establishes the timeliness of it. Right. So I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 paragraphs exploring these. And so it's just up to you how you want to do that. Your writing might be more entangled, a little bit more smooth, not really hard transitions between ideas. You may be able to discuss all of this in 2 paragraphs, maybe even in one long, very enmeshed paragraph. Maybe you're more formal, more blocked, in which case you might need 4 paragraphs, right? Um, where you kind of have a discussion, you draw a circle around it, have a discussion, draw a circle around it. Um, Whatever works for you. I would say 2 to 3 is optimal. No more than 4 on this one. Again, you only have, a page or two. Right. Next. Clearly defined research topic that identifies how you intend to research your problem. So your problem is not your topic, right? So my problem might be artists having their work plagiarized by AI. But my research topic might be machine learning, right? I want my research to be about how can we do this AI thing? How can we create, machine learning algorithms that don't plagiarize? Maybe there are viable alternatives that, the technocrats are not considering because they're more expensive or something like that. Uh, that I want to advocate for, right? And so as as long as they talk to one another, as long as you can make the case for, okay, here's the problem, and now I want to research this because here's how that is going to interact with that problem. And then very importantly, how you intend to research your problem. So we want to have a better idea, and this is where your preliminary research is going to come in and looking at those subtopics and having that angle is not just, okay, I'm going to study machine learning in general, but I intend to compare and contrast emerging machine learning theory of ways to do machine learning without plagiarism with the current cost benefit of prevalent machine learning algorithms as used by Google and Meta and so on, right? So no, specifically, I'm going to be researching different algorithms. I'm going to look at a theoretical set that doesn't plagiarize and a practical set that does, and I'm going to compare and contrast them, right? So we want to have a specific, yours may not be that specific yet, but we want to have a sense of specificity. We want to have a sense of you have an idea of at least what your first step will be. No one wants to back a proposal when someone says, I have this idea, and then they say, well, what are you going to do first? They're like, I have no idea. You're not going to go anywhere with that, right? You need to give a sense that you know what your first step will be. What's the first thing you're going to do? What's the first thing you're going to look at? Maybe you have your first two or three steps. Great, but we need to have a sense of where you're going first. What's the first thing you're going to start looking at? Um, and this is the most important part. This is what you're ultimately discussing is how your research will establish a meaningful understanding of the problem, right? Because we can have a vague academic understanding of a problem, but you have to think, what is a meaningful understanding of this? This is where you think about your audience and your community. If you're trying to discuss a problem affecting, rural Americans or something like that, doing research on a bunch of theory or, very complex matters might not establish a meaningful understanding of why egg prices are going up or something like that, right? So then there should be a relationship between what the problem is and then what kind of information, what kind of research will result in meaningful understandings of the problem, right? Delving into the macroeconomics of the supply chain might not be as meaningful as looking into you know more grounded microeconomical things going on that community could wrap their mind around and make sense of. So that's what I want to see you discussing, not just that you're going to researching to find information, that because that's not enough. Information should translate to understanding, and great writing, great projects should translate to not just understanding, but meaningful understanding and understanding that it is like a tool that is ready to our hand, that we in engaging with that information immediately are made knowledgeable in a way that we can go out and you know interact with the world in a way that is more impactful, it's more mindful, it's more we become smoother operators in the world as a result of this meaningful knowledge. So what I want to see is that you have a sense of not just what kind of information your project will result in, but what kind of meaningful understanding you intend for your project to bring. And then a brief overview of what kind of sources you're going to look at. So just again, getting into how you intend to research your problem. You should be able to do this in one paragraph, no more than two. And then finally, because remember at the end of all this, you're going to write a creative work. You're going to explore this phenomenon as an artist as well as an academic. So you're going to pick your subgenre for your creative work. Remember, the genre is going to be uh, speculative fiction. It's going to be either a dystopia or a utopia. You'll just need to give a sense of if you're going to write a utopia or a dystopia. That's all you got to do here is decide, do I want to write a utopia or a dystopia? If you want to write a story in which the problem is solved and the world is made better, you want to write a utopia. If you want to write a story in which the problem doesn't get solved and the world falls, it's a dystopia. What you choose here, you are not locked into. If you write dystopia and then you decide to write a utopia, it doesn't matter. I just want to see you thinking about this now, um, and then discuss why you made that choice. And this again is from the gut. You can write it because you think dystopias is a more effective way of speculating about a problem, or utopias because utopias are more focused on building positive, you know, bright worlds, and that's the kind of tone you want to set, rather than the dark and dismal dystopia. So while you're making that choice, don't overthink it here, just from the gut. Why does that particular subgenre speak to you? Um, and then here's a write-up just of kind of what I'm looking for, which is just a cohesive vision. I want to see that you're thinking through all these things and that it all makes sense, that you're not, you know, the relationship between your problem and then what you're actually researching are just two things that are off the wall and doesn't make sense how what you're wanting to research is in any way going to impact that community and their problem. So just a cohesive vision. It should all come together in a way that makes sense. Don't overthink or overcomplicate it. Simplified approach is going to be the best early on. The complexity will come with time as you develop. That nuance will work layers into your project. For now, keep it simple. Just plant a simple seed, and then the complexity will grow. Um, yeah, you'll have time to work on all of this. Um, what you write down will change, so don't feel like what you write down you're stuck with. You're just exploring the beginnings of this project, right? And so we're not in any way thinking about perfection, right? We're not in any way thinking about, if I put this down, it's set in stone. Um, Therefore, it needs to be perfect now. Um, we're throwing that out the window, right? We don't want that. That sense of perfection just gets in the way, locks us up. It's useless. So these proposals should be pretty rough and ready. Um, I just want to see the rough shape of a few ideas. Um, right. So again, 250 to 500 words, uh, about two or three paragraphs for this one paragraph for this one paragraph for this one. I would say for here, page plus is sufficient. If you need 500 words to get through all of this, you might be doing too much. You might, don't again add a bunch of sources. I would say maximum of two sources. Even then, if you write this and you don't use a single source, that's fine. Right. So to help you with this, I have created this proposal assignment, which will basically be brainstorm slash outline for your proposal. What is most important is that your language for your topic not be vague. That's the most important thing. There needs to be a sense that your project is grounded, that you know exactly what you're doing. You have a clear mind for what exactly your work is, and this is going to help you get there. So first, name and describe your topic using focused language, as focused as you can be, which means as few words as possible. Name and describe your topic, in about a sentence here. What is your research question? So when we were doing the brainstorming before, you were given the option to develop either a statement or a question. If you end up with just statements, then just turn those statements into questions. Just what is your research question? If you already have those research questions, then great, just use those. But essentially, it's just what's the question you're asking? So it might be, why are egg prices still going up? Or it might be, um, how are artists affected by their work being plagiarized by artificial intelligence? Right. So if you have a statement, just reword it into a question. Describe the significance of your question. So why does asking that question matter. So this is going to key you into thinking about your research, um, how you intend to research your problems, help you think through uh, how you're going to research it and how that's going to result in that meaningful information, that meaningful understanding. Describe which academic field you'll be working in. So again, this is going to help with this question. Um, Essentially, this is going to key into which databases you would use. So we're thinking psychology, sociology, engineering, uh, medicine, uh, the humanities, philosophy, whatever. If you're not sure, ask me. I've spoken with a lot of you already about it. Um, but this is just going to basically determine for people reading your proposal, um, what your angle is, right? Because we could be reading um, the question about AI and artists as an engineer, as a computer science engineer, or as an artist and the impact to artists. So those are going to be two very different papers. Name and describe the problem that you're researching. So finding the language for it. Again, using focused language. Determine the condition of your problem. So, what this means is what is bringing that problem, or what is the condition that is causing the problem to arise. So, in the AI and artist thing, the condition of the problem would be that current, large language models require input data to produce output data, and the input data is the work of other artists, right? So that's the condition that is bringing the problem about. And so, yeah, that's what this means. What is the underlying phenomenon that is producing the problem? Um, and then determine the cost of that condition, which is essentially the problem. Because that is happening, all this other stuff is happening. Because it is requiring this input data, because it is plagiarizing, it is causing, artist work to be plagiarized, which is, led them to uh, perhaps lose jobs. Book publishers are using AI artwork to create their book covers rather than hiring artists, so on and so forth. So these are going to help you. It's a little bit out of order, but it's going to help you with thinking through all of this. Um, and then at the very end, you're going to redraft these three essentially, but you're going to put them all into one nice, neat statement, right? And so this will walk you through if you do this, um, it will walk you through putting together thoughts for the project proposal. Now, you can adapt this. I'm not assigning this in the sense that you have to do exactly this and turn it in for a grade. This is just a tool to help you gather your thoughts. You can do all of these, you can do some of these, you can rearrange them and do them in a different order. If you do this, between this and all of the previous work that you've done, this will be the easiest thing you've ever written. You can go straight into writing this if you want, if you feel like you don't need this, or if you want to do an outline your own way, whatever. What I do want to see, what is required, is some kind of pre-writing, some kind of gathering of ideas. If you want to outline it, use this kind of bullet pointing structure, but just do it your own way. That's fine. You can fill out this worksheet here. Will help you gather. That's good too. As long as you are in some way doing pre-writing, gathering your thoughts, gathering all of those notes and preliminary research that you're doing, all those small assignments that we've done, preparing you for this, I want to see you gathering all of that together, formalizing it, and then using that as a roadmap for this essay. So this isn't necessarily required. I recommend doing it, but if you don't do this and you do your own outlining, that's acceptable as long as there's some kind of pre-writing that you're doing. Um, so for today, your assignment is just to have watched this, going into Friday, we're going to begin the proposal. Um, so for now, look over all of this, maybe start gathering all of your notes and such from the class into one place for now. If you want to do some kind of broad strokes organization, you can do that. We will start the actual writing of the proposal next week. So for now, it's just gathering, brainstorming, preparing. Um, yep, that is all. Um, Obviously, if there are any questions, let me know. But we'll be working on this in earnest next week. So.